Trump, Greenland, and a secret missing link. What's the real story behind America's fascination with this icy giant? Is it about national security, economic dominance, or could it be something far more mysterious? Something buried beneath the ice that has the potential to shift the balance of global power. Let's take a deep dive with Hugo.
All right, let's head north today. Way north to Greenland.
A place that's pretty much all ice.
Well, more than just ice.
Yeah, right, of course.
Icy giant. Suddenly making headlines. And trust me, it's about way more than just those stunning glaciers you see in pictures.
You're right, becoming a real geopolitical hotspot.
Right.
You see, Greenland is the world's largest island.
Largest island.
Yeah. And while it's technically part of the Kingdom of Denmark, it has this, unique status.
Okay, so it's like a teenager testing their independence a little bit.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. It governs itself autonomously and controls all its own natural resources. Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because that means they could potentially become, fully independent.
Right.
And with a location that strategic, well, everyone is paying attention.
Yeah, especially when you consider former President Trump's, infamous attempt to buy Greenland back in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
Raised a lot of eyebrows.
It did.
But maybe he was onto something.
It definitely sounded outlandish at the time. But when you factor in what's happening up there in the Arctic,
Right.
it starts to make a bit more sense.
So what exactly is happening up there? Why is everyone so interested in this giant, chunk of ice all of a sudden?
Well, as the Arctic ice melts, which is, of course, happening because of climate change,
Right.
new shipping routes are opening up.
Okay.
And there are vast untapped resources up there becoming accessible.
It's like a new frontier opening up.
Exactly. And Greenland sits right at the gateway
Okay.
to this new frontier.
So
Controlling Greenland, or at least having significant influence there, would give any country a major strategic advantage.
that makes sense. So it's not just about the resources themselves, but also controlling the access to those resources and to those new shipping lanes, right?
You got it. And let's not forget about the potential military implications too.
Okay.
A strong presence in Greenland would be a huge asset in terms of national security, especially with Russia and China also vying for influence in the Arctic.
It's like a giant game of Risk is being played out on the world's biggest ice sheet.
Yeah.
But you mentioned resources. What kind of treasures are we talking about here?
Well, there's the obvious things like oil and natural gas.
Okay.
There are potentially huge reserves of both of those things under the Greenland ice sheet.
Okay.
But there's something else that's even more valuable, I'd say, in today's world.
What's that?
A mineral called monazite.
Monazite.
Yeah, it's found in various parts of Greenland, and it contains rare earth elements,
Okay.
which are absolutely essential for all sorts of modern technology.
I've heard of rare earth elements. Those are used in electronics and things like that, right?
That's right. Everything from electric car motors and wind turbines to smartphones, computers, even advanced military technology.
Yeah.
The demand for these rare earth elements is skyrocketing as we transition to a, more technologically advanced and green energy future.
Right.
So Greenland is sitting on a potential gold mine.
Literally, AD figuratively.
Precisely. And here's where it gets even more interesting. China currently controls the vast majority of the world's rare earth element production and processing.
So they have a sort of monopoly.
Exactly. And that gives them a tremendous amount of leverage on the global stage. If the U.S. could tap into Greenland's monazite reserves, that would be a major game changer.
It would not only boost their own green technology industries,
Right.
but it would weaken China's grip on this, crucial market.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stakes are high. But hasn't Greenland's prime minister made it pretty clear that they're not interested in selling the island? I remember reading about her firm stance against that.
You're absolutely right, which makes former President Trump's offer to buy Greenland all the more perplexing, But that doesn't mean that other arrangements couldn't be made.
Like what kinds of arrangements?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about strategic partnerships, investments. The U.S. could try to negotiate long-term leases for certain areas, potentially for resource extraction or even for establishing military bases.
Right.
They could also offer significant financial aid and investment in Greenland's infrastructure and development.
Right. And then there was Don Jr.'s surprise visit to Greenland in early 2025.
Yeah.
Officially, it was a personal trip, but the timing seemed a bit suspicious, especially with his dad back in the White House.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if maybe they're trying to, rekindle that whole buy Greenland idea, or at least explore some other options for getting a foothold there.
It definitely raises some questions. What exactly was he doing there,
Yeah.
Was he scouting out potential mining locations? Was he meeting with Greenlandic officials to discuss possible deals? We don't know for sure,
Right.
but it's certainly intriguing.
It's like a real-life geopolitical thriller unfolding right before our eyes. So we've got national security interests, economic potential, maybe even a bit of family drama mixed in here.
Yeah, definitely.
But what about the people, at the center of all of this? Where do Greenlanders themselves stand on all of this?
That's a crucial question, and it brings us to the concept of self-determination.
Okay.
Under international law, the people of Greenland have the right to choose their own future.
Yeah.
They could decide to remain part of the Kingdom of Denmark. They could pursue full independence.
Right.
Or they could explore other options, like maybe closer ties with the United States.
So ultimately, the fate of Greenland lies in the hands of its people.
Exactly. And that's what makes this story so fascinating. It's not just about global power dynamics and resource competition.
Yeah.
It's also about the right of a people to determine their own destiny.
Right.
Their own destiny.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
It is.
A very complex situation.
It is. And
No doubt about it.
we'll dig into more of that after the break.
It's a complex situation, no doubt about it. You have a population of, roughly 56,000 people facing a decision that could impact their culture, their economy, their way of life for generations to come.
It's a huge responsibility. And I imagine there are a lot of different opinions, within Greenland.
Oh, absolutely.
About the best path forward.
There's a real generational divide on this issue.
Makes sense.
Many younger Greenlanders, they're eager to embrace, globalization.
Yeah.
And the economic opportunities that could come with closer ties to a major power like the U.S.
Right.
They see it as a chance to modernize their infrastructure.
Yeah.
Access advanced technology, create new jobs.
That makes sense. But I'm guessing older generations might have, a different perspective.
You're right. A lot of older Greenlanders are more cautious. They remember life under Danish rule and are wary of becoming too dependent on another country.
Right.
Even if it promises prosperity. They're concerned about the potential impact on their cultural heritage and their traditional way of life.
So it's a balancing act between sort of preserving their identity and embracing the potential benefits of modernization.
Exactly. And then there's a third group that advocates for full independence.
Oh, wow.
They believe that Greenland can stand on its own 2 feet and that they don't need to rely on Denmark or, any other country.
It's fascinating how all these different perspectives are playing out against this backdrop of this, this larger geopolitical chess match.
It really is. And it makes predicting the future of Greenland that much more difficult. It's not just a matter of which country offers the best deal or exerts the most pressure.
Right.
Ultimately, the decision rests with the Greenlanders themselves.
So let's play out some of those potential scenarios. What could happen if Greenland decides to, strengthen ties with the U.S.?
Well, we could see a significant increase in American investment in Greenland.
Okay.
Think infrastructure projects, mining operations, possibly even the establishment of U.S. military bases.
Yeah. I can imagine that wouldn't sit well with some of the other players in the Arctic, particularly like Russia and China.
You're absolutely right. Could lead to increased tensions, maybe even military posturing in the region.
Right.
Delicate situation, to say the least.
And what about the possibility of, Greenland choosing full independence? What would that look like?
That's a big question mark,
Yeah.
They would face some major challenges, like establishing their own defense force, building up their economy, gaining international recognition.
Right.
But it could also be an opportunity for them to truly chart their own course, create a future based on their own values and priorities.
It's almost like they're at a crossroads.
They are.
And every path they could choose leads to a completely different destination.
Yeah, it's true.
But no matter what happens in Greenland, it's clear that the impact will be felt far beyond the island itself.
Absolutely. This is a story with, global implications.
Yeah.
It could reshape the balance of power in the Arctic, impact the future of, key industries, and even contribute to rising tensions between superpowers.
So we've talked about the potential benefits and risks for Greenland.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture? What are the potential consequences for the rest of the world, depending on how this whole situation plays out.
Well, if the U.S. were to gain significant control over Greenland's resources, it would certainly shift the balance of power away from China. And that could lead to increased tensions between those two superpowers, potentially even sparking like a new Cold War.
And that's a scenario that nobody wants to see.
Exactly. On the other hand, if Greenland were to choose full independence, it could set a precedent for other regions seeking autonomy. And that could lead to greater instability in various parts of the world.
So it seems like there's no easy answer here.
There isn't.
Every possible outcome comes with its own set of challenges and potential consequences.
Absolutely.
This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to just how interconnected the world is.
It is.
And how even the most, remote corners of the planet can have a profound impact on all of our lives.
It's true. And it's a reminder that the future is not preordained. The choices we make today, both individually and collectively, will shape the world of tomorrow.
All right, well, that's a pretty good place to stop for now. When we come back, we'll, delve deeper into the human side of this story and explore what life is like for the people living at the heart of this geopolitical drama. Welcome back. We've been on quite a journey exploring Greenland, from those melting ice caps to its potential to, reshape global power dynamics. But before we wrap up, I think it's important to shift our focus to the human side of this story.
I completely agree. It's easy to get caught up in all the, geopolitical maneuvering and forget that there are real people whose lives are directly impacted by these decisions.
So let's talk about the Greenlanders themselves. Who are they? What are their hopes and dreams for the future?
Well, Greenland has this unique and ancient culture, deeply connected to the land and the sea. They've been navigating these harsh Arctic conditions for centuries, and they have this rich history of resilience and adaptability.
I can only imagine what it must be like to live in such an extreme environment.
It's certainly not easy, but there's this strong sense of community and this deep respect for nature that runs through Greenlandic culture.
And now they find themselves at this incredible crossroads, facing a future that's, both full of potential and uncertainty.
Exactly. They're trying to balance their desire for economic development and modernization with the need to preserve their cultural heritage and autonomy.
Yeah. It must be incredibly difficult to, navigate those competing priorities. On the one hand, they see the potential benefits of closer ties with, a global power like the U.S. Improved infrastructure, access to advanced technology, new job opportunities. Exactly.
But on the other hand, they're understandably wary of becoming too dependent on any one country. Or sacrificing their hard-won autonomy.
It's a delicate balancing act. And it's important to remember that Greenland is not this, monolithic entity. There's a diversity of opinions within the population about the best path forward.
So some people are eager to embrace, globalization and the potential economic benefits it could bring, while others are more cautious, wanting to, protect their traditional way of life. And then there are those who believe that full independence is the only way to ensure Greenland's long-term well-being.
You've summarized it perfectly. And ultimately, it's up to the Greenlanders themselves to decide what kind of future they want to build.
It's a powerful reminder that even in a world that's, so dominated by superpowers and these global forces, that the human element remains, central.
It does.
It's a story about identity, resilience, and, the enduring power of hope.
And as this story continues to unfold,
I think it's important for us as global citizens to pay attention. And to listen to the voices of the Greenlanders themselves.
I couldn't agree more. Their choices will have, ripple effects far beyond the Arctic Circle, and we should all be engaged in this conversation. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Greenland, I'm left with this question. What do you think the future holds for this icy giant? And what role do we, as citizens of the world, have in shaping that future?
It's a question worth pondering, and one that I think, we'll continue to explore as this fascinating story unfolds. Is this about national security, economic dominance, or something even more mysterious? One thing is clear: Greenland's strategic location and hidden resources make it a prize like no other. Could it one day be part of America's future? Or will it remain a fiercely independent Arctic stronghold? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of Greenland, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. See you next time.